Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Chris here, and today is February 13th, 2023, and I've got a really exciting video for you today. In this video, we're going to be discussing how Arthur Ashe was able to stun Jimmy Connors at the 1975 Wimbledon Championships to capture his first and only title there. And this is a victory that would change not only the course of Arthur Ashe's career, but also Jimmy Connors. Now, before we get into this topic, I'd like to encourage you guys, if you're new to this channel, to please take a minute to hit the subscribe button down below. That'll keep you notified of any time we release additional content like this. And of course, if you enjoy videos like this, then please be sure to share this video with your friends. All right, guys, without further ado, let's get into it. So this story is going to take us all the way back to the 1968 US Open, where Arthur Ashe would become the very first player to win the US Open in the Open era. And we're going to flash forward now a couple years into the future, where he would pick up the 1970 Australian Open title. And Arthur Ashe, throughout his career, was always considered to be a player who had a lot of potential. If he was playing really well, he could win potentially any event. But he wasn't quite as consistent and as solid as a player like Rod Laver, who was, capable of winning the Grand Slam back in 1969. Now, in 1973, there would be an organized boycott by the players of the fledgling ATP, which was founded in 1972 by Donald Dell, Jack Kramer, and Cliff Drysdale to protect the interests of professional tennis players. In 1973, Nikola Pilic, Yugoslavia's #1 tennis player, was suspended by the National Lawn Tennis Association, which claimed that he refused to play in a Davis Cup tiebreak for his country against New Zealand. The initial suspension of 9 months, supported by the ITF, was later reduced to 1 month, but this unfortunately still meant that Pilic would not be able to play at Wimbledon. The recently formed ATP stated that no one should compete at Wimbledon if Pilic was not allowed to play in the event. As a result, 81 of the top players, including the reigning champion, Stan Smith, boycotted the event to protest the suspension of Nikola Pilic. Now, World Team Tennis is something that maybe a lot of you guys might not be really familiar with, because it's not something that's particularly relevant to the structuring of the pro event today. Back in the 70s, it was a very viable event for players because there just wasn't a lot of prize money at the ATP level or the ITF level, which is how things had been structured up to that point, the International Tennis Federation. So because they didn't have a lot of options necessarily for earning prize money, players would choose to play World Team Tennis events and also challenge matches, which were a lot more high-profile challenge matches, which were a lot more lucrative for them. And this would become a point of controversy in this story, because in 1974, Jimmy Connors would choose to play World Team Tennis, and he was famously not allowed to play at the French Open that year, which prevented him most likely from winning the calendar year Grand Slam. Jimmy Connors would, in 1975, he would, along with Yvonne Goolagong, I believe, would file a lawsuit against the ATP for not allowing him and Goolagong, to take part in these events. And then there would be a lawsuit that would be issued by Connors' manager against Arthur Ashe for some comments that Arthur Ashe had made about Jimmy Connors choosing to not play Davis Cup over, once again, these high-profile challenge matches. So a couple weeks after this lawsuit was initiated, Jimmy Connors would meet Arthur Ashe in the finals of Wimbledon. And not only was this a highly dramatized final just due to all of the issues surrounding these guys, but also this would be the 4th career meeting of Connors and Ashe. Connors had won every match up to this point against Arthur Ashe, and Arthur Ashe, of course, was now the veteran player. He was just a couple of weeks, I believe, shy of his 32nd birthday. Jimmy Connors was fresh off of his amazing 1974 season that saw him win 99 matches that year. He was in very good form in 1975, although not quite to the level he had been at the previous year, but pretty much everybody expected Connors to win. He looked rock solid in his matches leading up to the final, defeating Roscoe Tanner in straight sets. And of course, Roscoe Tanner had one of the best serves in the world back in the mid-1970s. So everybody thought that Jimmy Connors was going to win this match quite easily, but it didn't quite work out that way. What happened was, as Arthur Ashe was preparing to play Jimmy Connors, he came up with a strategy for basically using dead balls or soft balls to Jimmy Connors' forehand. Arthur Ashe had noticed that Connors did not handle the low balls with no pace, especially on his forehand side. He did not handle those balls as well as he did when the ball was coming at him and he was able to feed off of the pace of his opponent. And with tennis, it's often like that. Now, the reason that it didn't work for Connors was because Connors was using more of a continental grip, so he couldn't get the topspin on the ball if it was landing short and he was having to move in to hit it. Because of his grip style, he didn't really have the ability to do that as easily. And of course, you have to remember, this is in the days of wood rackets. Connors, of course, is using an aluminum frame, but we're still talking about a very, very small head size. So it's a much different way of playing tennis, and the aggressive topspin approach shots just weren't really used as often back then, and they weren't possible also with these rackets. So as we get into the match, it's very clear that Arthur Ashe is going to be playing this final very differently from what everyone expected. He starts off by lobbing balls to Jimmy's backhand, and he also starts hitting sliced balls to Jimmy's forehand. And Jimmy Connors is not expecting this at all. He's expecting Ashe to basically club the ball, be very aggressive, serve and come forward, which Arthur Ashe did some of this, but Ashe really focused in on getting that ball low and in the middle of the court to Connors' forehand, where he was going to have to generate his own spin. He was going to have to find angles, and he was also going to have to do a lot of volleying. And these weren't the strengths of Jimmy Connors. Connors liked to redirect balls that were coming at him quickly. He liked to be able to attack balls from the middle of the court, and Ashe was basically moving Connors off the court, sweeping him off the court in some cases with his serve. Especially on the deuce side, he was sweeping Connors wide and then would move forward to put the ball away. And these were all things that made Jimmy Connors very, very uncomfortable, and Connors started to choke a little bit, and he would lose the first set 6-1. And then the second set would basically be a continuation of the first set, where Connors would again lose the set 6-1. Now in the third set, Jimmy Connors started to adapt to Arthur Ashe's playing style a little bit, and he would manage to stay even with Ashe for a while, and then very late in that set he would get a break and he would take the third set 7-5. Now we're heading into a fourth set. Arthur Ashe has been dominating the match for the most part. He's up 2-1. He just needs one more set to win, and he would manage to do that. He would manage to take the match at 6-4 in the fourth set to win a monumentally important Wimbledon title. And also it was a big breakthrough, I think, for the development of the men's game, because it would expose weaknesses in Jimmy Connors' game that players really didn't know about up to that point. They didn't know about Jimmy's inability to handle those kind of softer, shorter balls, or he would have to generate pace. And this match really exposed that. So I feel that this was one of the most important matches to come out of the 70s. All right, guys, so that does it for this video. Please leave me a comment in the comment section down below and let me know how you think that Arthur Ashe's win at Wimbledon in 1975 changed the trajectory of the men's game. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you at the next one.